the outer courts, were for the people, for processions, and for the spectacle, right? And so now, but the inner sanctuaries, the crypts beneath the altars, the crypts beneath the shrines, sealed chambers that has where in these places where the statues slept in darkness between festivals. Okay, see what I'm saying? There are, matter of fact, I learned that there are over 700 statues of Sekhmet. Okay, I'm sorry, not Sekhmet, Sekhmet in the same area. Okay, so we're going to go inside these forbidden spaces. We're going to explore these chapels where the Insubiti or the Simatawi sought divine renewal, and underground crypts where Osirion resurrection rites were unfolded in total darkness. Okay, in darkness, that's where light is revealed. You see what I'm saying? And so we're going to get into that. This journey, it's going to take us through layers of Egyptian spiritual science, sacred geometry, encoded in architecture, ritual practices designed to manipulate divine energy, and a priestly hierarchy, a system so precise that a single mispronounced word could disrupt the whole balance. It could throw off everything. The Heka, or the words, okay, that word of power. What's going on, Sister Abina? What's going on? One of our illustrious members. She's greeting everybody that come in. Hit the like button as you come in. But yeah, it's been a minute. So this I had to take a break, but there's another reason why we didn't do it last week. I'm gonna tell y'all in a minute. Yeah. Yeah. So this is gonna be good. This is gonna be good. So now in the inner sanctuaries, okay, the chapel shrines and the hidden rooms, right? Really quick, we're gonna talk about the sanctuaries, the chapels of Karnak. I did not know that there was chapels in and around the Temple of Karnak. Okay, we're gonna talk about the sanctuary of the Bark of Ra, the boat, the solar boat, and then I didn't know that there was two kinds of boats. There was a boat of 1,000,000 years, right? And then there was a night boat. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. It's like that. That's these last few weeks been interesting. So, but now here we go. So as we go into the deeper understanding of Karnak's hidden corridors, the scale of secrecy becomes apparent. Unlike the hypostyle hall, which welcomes everybody, it can be overwhelming. These chambers are intimate. These chambers are small spaces, dimly lit and deliberately enclosed. Each room served a purpose, right? And so some of the chapels house the statues of Amun Ra, some Sekhmet, some Ma'ut. Okay, with at that time it was adorned in gold and a different jewelry, the eyes inlaid with stone, and so it would catch the sunlight as it comes in. Right, others were dedicated to Ma'ut, like I said, the Divine Mother. Okay, where offerings of incense and food were placed daily. Okay, it wasn't just for Ma'ut, but it was for the ancestors. See what I'm saying? We have to realize that this Egypt is in Africa and they did African things. And so Kansu, the boy of the night or the son of night, right? The lunar Neteru had a secluded chamber aligned with the moon cycles. There was priests during the day, but there was also priests at night that dealt with the moon cycles, where priests performed nighttime observances, right? So let me paint this picture real quick. Let me do that. Okay, so think about it. You are a priest or a kari heb, okay, or a hemniter or hemniter. Okay, okay. Imagine you're a priest. A second, you are doing your work, and remember, these temples weren't just a place of worship in a sense. This was a place of education and knowledge. See what I'm saying? Where nowadays the church is on one corner and the school is around the corner. They was all together. Okay. And so think about it. You just got through your purification process at the sacred lake, right? The cold water shocking your skin. And this is before the dawn, right? And you just shaved and you got the white linen, and now you're walking barefoot through these corridors, lit only by a single oil lamp. Man, that's crazy. And so these places were seen and understood and revealed to those who was prepared. You see what I'm saying? And yeah, they dipped in the sacred lake, and then they went to that next process. Okay. And for these priests, it took them years to go from one level to the next. It wasn't like in school, you're in fourth grade, then you're in fifth grade. No, it took them years to gain mastery. See what I'm saying? And so we have the architecture of mystery, where the storage rooms were sacred space. They were sacred themselves, and they had ritual vessels inside. They had bronze chalices, silver cisterns, and ceremonial barks, where they were arranged in a certain order in their place. Everything had its place. Everything, right? And so they were positioned along the visible axes, mirrored the celestial order, ensuring the energy of Amun flowed through the temple or whatever, basically Amun or the hidden one, right? And so the walls themselves were actual text. And we talked about how each pylon or each wall of the meta nature was like a puzzle piece. See what I'm saying? So you have to read both sides to get a full understanding. Reliefs depicting creation, divine kingship, and offerings to the Neteru lined the chambers. Some inscriptions were secret spells and secret knowledge for the initiate, right? Intended only for the priests who had went through that process. Okay. You had to be prepared to read them. You had to be prepared. Your consciousness aligned through the years of training. You had to be prepared. Okay. And so then we had patterns repeated across the rooms. There was lotus and papyrus motifs, symbolic of the primordial waters of noon, from which the creation emerged. The lotus blossom opening at the dawning of the sun. The papyrus, that was a plant of Lower Egypt, which is we would say Lower Egypt, but it's actually, technically the northern part where the Nile Delta is, representing the delta's fertile marshes where creation first took form. Okay. And so each chamber, I know this is the image of King Tut and his wife. Okay. And then they have the lotus right there, right? I love these pictures, right? It's pretty cool. So each doorway, each hidden niche was a node in a sacred network connecting the Neteru, connecting the ancestors with the people. Okay, this cosmic map encoded in the hypostyle hall. Visitors may never understand, or they never have seen these spaces, yet they were central to maintaining Ma'at in order. So they may have never seen these sacred spaces, maybe up until excavation, maybe up until probably 100 years ago, when they removed the sand and everything and kind of rebuilt it. Now it's a tourist attraction, but at one point in time, you was not supposed to go into those spaces. I'm just saying, right? But even those secret chambers, even those secret spaces, they were essential to maintaining order and balance across Waset. Okay. Then we had the sensory experience. It's not just things to be seen, it's stuff that is felt and heard. And even the smell. See what I'm saying? The smell of these chambers. We had myrrh and frankincense had soaked into the very stones over the centuries. It was baked in. Oils mixed with natron salt, the faint copper scent of bronze vessels. Even in silence, even in the darkness, your senses told you something. This place is living. Karnak was a living place. It was alive with something beyond physical. Okay, the acoustics were intentional also. Certain chambers amplified whispers, others absorbed sound completely, creating pockets of absolute silence where a priest could hear only his own heartbeat. Have you ever been there? Like like if you were just relaxing and chilling, and it's so quiet that you can hear your heartbeat? Yeah, yeah. It was a reminder that he himself was a vessel of divine rhythm, connected to the ancestors, connected to the people and the Neteru. Okay, and even temperature would change. Okay, depends on this depends on the room. It may be hot in one room, maybe cold in the other. Okay. Matter of fact, in your house, you may have the temperature set at a certain level, but certain rooms are warmer or cooler. They're warmer or cooler because of various things. And sometimes they're warmer or cooler because of certain energy that's in that room. Now, and so these priests paid attention to everything because everything meant something. And these same priests were the ones that lined the temple up with the stars. So everything has something. Everything meant something to them, right? Right. So now, if you are enjoying the content, like and subscribe so you don't miss anything. Yeah, we're back in full effect, and it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. If you enjoy Nile Valley culture, if you enjoy Ethiopia, Kush, and Kemet, like and subscribe. Right? Let's learn together. Let's go. So, by the way, now here's one thing about it. We've been rolling for about 5 years now, and I would normally I would assume that everybody understands what this symbol is or what it means, the Ankh. So what we've done, we put together a free quick guide. If you want a free quick guide on some of these symbols, okay, like and comment, decode, and we'll send that to you. We'll get it sent to you. Okay. If you want a free quick guide, like and comment, decode, and we got you. All right. Let's get it. Now, here we go. The hidden chapels or the hidden chambers of Amun. These are the chapels of Karnak. I told you, I did not know there were chapels in and around Karnak. I didn't know that. I didn't know. And so it's amazing to find out that this grand place had these secret spaces. See what I'm saying? So if you are following along, if you're writing it down, so the chapels of Karnak is the White Chapel, the Red Chapel, the chapels of Osiris, and the Imperial Chapel, chapels of the pharaohs and the ancestors. Right here we go. Now the White Chapel. Now let's get to it. Starting with the most elegant one, the White Chapel was the White Chapel of Senusret the first, is located in the open air arena or open air areas right around here. Okay, that's where the White Chapel would be. But you guys, if you guys have, let me know if it's another location. But to my understanding, is right around here. Okay, and so as we begin our journey with the White Chapel, we have King Senusret, the jewel of the Middle Kingdom. We talked about Sobek Neferu. That is the ancestor of Queen Sobek Neferu during the Middle Kingdom, built nearly 4,000 years ago. This space here was built 4,000 years ago, around 1950 before Common Era, BCE, during the reign of the one of Egypt's most powerful pharaohs. But even though he was a powerful pharaoh at the time, the Middle Kingdom was shaky. It was, and we may have to get into detail about that. but think about this, okay? It was crafted in white limestone. This chapel once gleamed in the heart of Karnak like a beacon of rebirth. It was erected for the Hatshepsut festival, which we discussed many times, an ancient jubilee through which a king's divine vitality is renewed. Think about this for a moment. The Egyptians, the people of Kemet, understood that even divine kingship needed periodic renewal. A pharaoh wasn't just crowned once and that's it. You know what I'm saying? He had to be recrowned. He had to be reset symbolically, reborn through knowledge and wisdom and ritual, typically after 30 years of rule. Okay? And so here, Senusret stands in carved in serene perfection. He's offering Amun Ra, the Muntu. He's giving offerings to Ra, okay, Muntu and Ptah and other divine powers. Along the base are the 42 gnomes of Kemet. They're inscribed, each one bringing each gnome or each small neighborhood in Egypt brought a tribute, brought gifts to the king, signifying or showing that the two lands, the north and south, breathed as one, even during the Middle Kingdom. See, what happens is we would bypass we would look at the old kingdom because of the pyramids, right? We'll skip the Middle Kingdom and go right into the 18th and 19th dynasty. No, every era was important. This is the reason why Kemet lasted over 5,000 years as an empire. See what I'm saying? And so here's a little image here of the gnomes. I can't expand like I want to, but yeah. Brother Mo, shout out to Brother Mo. He loves maps. You know what I'm saying? And this is an image for those who like to pause. These break down the various gnomes of Upper and Lower Egypt. And it shows how they pronounced it and how they spelled it. Like it, right? So the inscriptions along in the White Chapel were among the most refined or the most they're the best preserved. Okay, these texts and hymns were offering to the present king. It was divinely sanctioned. He was showing that he was ruler of Upper Lower Egypt. And here's some notable inscriptions though. Some notable inscriptions include the processional text of the gnomes around the base of the chapel. Let me get it. Yeah, around the base of the chapel, each of the 42 gnomes, sacred provinces, or we would like to call them neighborhoods, to kind of get a modern day understanding, or cities of Egypt, is personified presenting offerings, right? And so there's one that says he is beloved of Ra, Lord of the thrones of the two lands, who has given him all life, stability, dominion forever. These phrases were repeated in royal titulary form, showing that the White Chapel functioned as a portable text of divine recognition. It wasn't just a pretty place to put things. Okay. This was a solar text. Okay. A text of rebirth of divine kingship through sacred utterance. Okay. And it has some sacred geometry. Symbolically, this chapel is a chamber of balance or chamber of ma'at, like that feather. Okay, where the pharaoh's body becomes a mirror of Egypt's sacred geography. And through knowledge, the king reaffirms Ma'at, the eternal order. So the proportions of the structure itself encodes sacred mathematics, the supreme mathematics. The ratio of its height to width mirrors the proportion found in pyramid construction. Just because the pyramids wasn't being built during the Middle Kingdom, that does not mean the knowledge was lost. Let me say that again. Just because the pyramids were not being built during some of these eras, I stand corrected. The pyramids were all the way up until Sobek Neferu. They were building pyramids, right? So I stand corrected. I had to think about that. My bad. But they weren't on a grand scale like the big three, right? They were still, but they was building them. So they used that. I guess you could say it wasn't compartmentalized. It wasn't compartmentalized where they only had the knowledge for the pyramids and nothing else. They used that knowledge for other things, even a small chapel. That's profound. To have such attention to detail to small things, it lets people know how important and how sacred this space was, right? The spacing of the columns follows patterns observed in the movement of the celestial bodies, the stars, the sun, moon, and stars. So it's not just a celebration of rulership, but a ritual of divine vibration, okay, where the harmony between heaven and earth is reestablished through the king. So now, here we go. Our girl, the Red Chapel of Hatshepsut, the throne of divine manifestation. Yeah, the Red Chapel of Hatshepsut. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She even built one. Yeah, I told you at the Temple of Karnak, kings and rulers added onto it, not destroying it or demolishing it. I'm just saying, it's stuff, there's weird stuff going on in the United States where people like to demolish things instead of add on to it. You know. So as centuries pass after ruler, these are centuries. So when goodness, king, these are hundreds of years have passed since Senusret and the White Chapel was built. Okay, then we have Queen Hatshepsut. Okay, hundreds of years. Okay, her red chapel built on red quartzite and black granite, red and black. That means something. It's symbolic, right? It once stood between the fourth and fifth pylons at the very core of the temple. It was actually because a lot of these chapels were moved and rebuilt. Okay, of course, because you want to make the space for tourists, right? Right. So they removed that. That would have been cool to see this chapel, this space inside of Karnak, where it's supposed to be. Man. So this was the shrine or the bark shrine or the boat shrine of Ra, or the hidden one, the resting place of his sacred boat during festivals like the beautiful feast of the valley, right? But symbolically, it was more than a resting place. It was a womb of manifestation where the Neteru, the ancestors' presence, entered the visible world. Okay, it was a touchdown point, right? So we have the divine birth story. We got to have a little story time, right? Yeah. So on the walls, Hatshepsut proclaims her divine birth. Ra himself visits her mother, Queen Amos, shaping the destiny of a king in the form of a queen. So let me read it. Let me read it. Let me read a little bit. Let me read a little bit. Ra took the form of her husband, the majesty of King Jehuti Mesu. Jehuti Mesu. Okay. Uh, the Neteru, the Neteru's perfume was that of punt and all his costly goods. Then spoke the Neteru, Ra, Hatshepsut shall be the name of this daughter whom I have placed in your body. She shall exercise excellent kingship in this whole land. So there is a divine birth story in Egypt. And the king actually was the queen. All right, Queen Hatshepsut. And so through these carvings, she established herself not just as a mortal ruler, but a living power of the hidden one, or of Ra, the very embodiment of divine kingship in feminine form. Okay, and remember, she, as we discussed before, as we discussed last spring, she admired Queen Sebek Neferu. So yeah, she was following that pattern, that process, and this was controversial. After, and so by her proclaiming that, her stepson Tutmosis III attempted to erase many of her monuments, including the portions of this chapel. Yeah, he. I just have reason to believe that there was some kind of bitterness between Hatshepsut and and Tutmosis the third, because they stayed into it. They say, like, bro, like, you know what I'm saying? And so yeah, but it's the harder he fought to remove her from history, she still showed up, you know. So um she was connected she was, in my opinion, she was connected to the hidden one, to the ancestor. So it was very important that her name is written and respected, right? And so we have the Red Chapel's colors. Okay, we have deep radiant red signifies the color vitality of the life force, linking it to the blood of the ancestors. Okay, the sacred fire that fuels creation. Red quartzite catches light differently than the white limestone of the White Chapel. At dawn, some people say that it glows from within as if it as if containing its own fire. Okay, this is not just for aesthetic. It was temple technology. It was sacred technology. Within these walls, rituals were of renewal and revelation unfolded. And the moment when divine power became visible, audible, and embodied through the Neteru or through the ruler. And there was even text in there. There was even text in there, right? And so here's a little picture right there. Okay, and there's other chapels in and around that complex. Okay, and it is a oblong shape. It is a long shape. All right, like a rectangle. And so, the Red Chapel's inscriptions were among the richest ritual records at Karnak, and many of them detail the daily festival rites performed for for Ra's journey. There's key texts like the beautiful feast of the valley. Okay, let me see the fam was talking. Okay, what's going on, Grand Man Tarot? What's going on? Yeah, we're gonna have to. It's about to be the end of the year. We have to bring the fam back. We got to bring Rock With Me Nation and Theo B back because I got some questions. I got a question. They try to bring Kane the Conqueror back. I need to know some stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to Grand Madam Terror. I really appreciate it. Yeah, with the Rock With Me Nation. That's cool. And so they have the beautiful Feast Valley text, inscriptions of Ra's bark or Amun's bark being carried from Karnak to the West Bank at Del El Bahari. These processional inscriptions were visible or visual hymns reenacting the Neteru's and ancestors' renewal through union of Heteru and the Theban triad. Okay, and they would say something like this: Amun, who comes forth in peace to see his mother Heteru, mistress of the West, the earth rejoices at his procession. Hearts are purified when he passes. Then you have the hidden one. Okay, they will say something like, you are the one who made all that is, the hidden form, mysterious appearance, the Neteru, know not your true image. And so these texts portray Hatshepsut as the servant priest. Okay, the servant priest of Amun's mystery system, reaffirming her divine birth and authority through ritual speech, right? So far, we talked about the White Chapel, the Red Chapel. Here comes the chapels of Osiris. Yeah. And then we're going to break down the Imperial Chapels and the chapels of the Pharaohs. So, yeah. So, we're going to talk about the Osirion Chapel, the portals of resurrection. You can't leave them out. You can't leave them out, right? But before we get to that, I got a question. Would you rather teach sacred mysteries or guard them in silence? Like and comment below. Let me know. Would you rather teach sacred mysteries or guard them in silence? I realize that we as a people are kind of loud about a lot of stuff, but I just tell me. All right, here we go. The Osirion Chapels, portals of resurrection. Here we go. So beyond the central axis of Amun's temple lie the Osirion Chapels, the hidden sanctuaries of rebirth. Now, the Osirion Chapels is right here. Okay, it's right around here. Okay, and so these chapels, such as the Hekajet and the Osiris, Lord of Eternity, Osiris, Lord of Light, form a sacred circuit around the temple's rear, where the sunlight fades and shadows reign. So now, originally, they would be back here, but nowadays, they move things, right? So, but yeah, they they had these chapels are now these chapels, such as like I said, the Osiris Hekajet. Okay, the Osiris, Lord of Eternity, and Osiris, Lord of Light, form sacred circuit around the temple. Okay, and in this, it appears where the sunlight fades and shadows reign. Okay, this is towards the end of the day, right? And so now, in the ritual space, in these chambers, the priests of Karnak perform rites of union between Amun Ra and Osiris, between light and dark, heaven and the Duat, right? Each chapel was a microcosm of the cosmic body, walls depicting the resurrection of the god, the rising of the Nile, the birth of the morning sun. The darkness here is intentional. Okay, these spaces, thresholds between life and death, being and non-being, to enter them is basically to symbolically die, to undergo this dissolution that precedes rebirth. Okay, they remember each part of the temple was some sort of phase. There was a life phase, and there's also here in the Osirion Chapels the death phase. Okay, the priests had to undergo these processes. See what I'm saying? They had to do it. Otherwise, they would their priesthood would be null and void, right? And get, not to mention, the kings had to go through that process. Let's see what the people are saying. Yeah, people rather they would teach the sacred mysteries rather than guard them in secret. Yeah, okay. And there are a lot of teachers in who's part of the Ujumbe family, so I get it. I get it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. People rather teach. Yeah, I do too. I do too. But sometimes you got to be selective in who you're teaching. You know, I get it. I get it. I get it. So, yeah. So, through these sacred scenes, the pharaoh himself became Osiris, right? Dying to the old self and being reborn as he lived in Heru. Okay. So here's another image that is Aset and Nekbet flanking uh, Osiris. They're not, and some people like to say that they're behind him. It does look like that. I think that, but also think about this: there are some images where the queens are right next to the king, not behind. Okay, and I think for this purpose, they did not draw them. They won't be able to see all three of them, so they just put them like in this kind of order. And then there's the four canopic jars in front of him. Mm-hmm. So we have we have inscriptions of transformation, where within the smaller Osirian chapels and the smaller chapels there, especially the ones near the Akhmenu of Tutmosis III, the Akhmenu Tutmosis III, that is, yeah, around the back here. Let me see where's yeah, right around here. Akhmenu Tutmosis. So there are some Osirian chapels here, but then, yeah, I stand corrected. They're around the back right here. But yeah, there's some by the Akhmenu. And they draw from the pyramid text and coffin text traditions, uh, would later uh, be the prequel to the book of coming forth by day. And so they'll have some invocations to Osiris. It's hail to you, Osir, Lord of eternity, King of the living, whose body is eternal and whose soul is Ra. And then there's a resurrection one. It says, rise up, for your bones are joined with your limbs are gathered. You awaken as one who lives. Your heart beats again, O Lord of the West. Okay. Then there's the union with Amun. There's a union with Amun, right? Some inscriptions link Osiris to Amun as Amun Osiris, merging the hidden one with the resurrected one, a powerful symbol of cyclical transformation. The Osirion Chapels remind us that the Temple of Amun was not only a solar sanctuary but also a labyrinth. Okay, a hidden world of resurrection where divine consciousness was renewed beneath the veil of darkness, right? These chapels were spiritual laboratories, inscribed manuals of the soul's regeneration. Okay, so now we have the Imperial Chapel, the continuum of divine kingship. Even as dynasties rose and fell, okay, these sacred current, the sacred current of Karnak never stopped, right? So during the late period, and the Ptolemaic age, rulers from distant lands, Nubian, Persian, and Greek, all sought to graft their rule into this sacred space. Among the monuments stands what we call the Imperial Chapel, right? A continuation of the ancient royal code. So we have the new kings, but they have ancient rituals, right? Pharaohs like Taharka, our dude, Taharka of the 25th dynasty. He is one of the Nubian pharaohs, Kushite king from the south, what is now Sudan. Now, speaking of Sudan, there's a lot going on with our family in Sudan. Okay, send prayers and positive vibes to Sudan, and kick the UAE out. Kick the people that the other imperialists of the East, kick them out, because we always focus on Western imperialism and we forget there's an Eastern form of imperialism also. So, yeah, there's a lot of things going on in Africa. Shout out to my big brother Will. He sent me something on TikTok. It said there was over 40 to 50 armed battles going on in Africa right now, and the majority of which were sponsored by external forces. Yeah, and Congo and Sudan is a hotbed right now. Okay, so send prayers to the family in Sudan. Okay, that is our beloved mother, and we got to we got to do what we can to raise some kind of awareness, right? So Karnak, King Taharka, the Kushite king, restored the old shrines with reverence, inscribing his devotion to Amun of Karnak as the source of all power. Taharka understood what many conquerors did not. You cannot simply take Egypt. Egypt must accept you. Okay, you hear what I said? You couldn't just take over and occupy Egypt. Egypt had to accept you, and acceptance only comes through proper processes, the proper rituals, the proper alignments, the proper reverence to Amun. You don't give that reverence or that just do and then turn around and put your people on, put your thing on top of that. No, Taharka knew better because he was African, right? But now later rulers such as Philip Archelaus, half brother Alexander the Great, and Ptolemy the Third added their offerings, blending Greek and Egyptian symbolism. Falcons beside eagles, lotus beside the laurel. They did a lot of those things. This fusion of iconography reflects the enduring law. No empire could rule Egypt unless it was sanctioned. Okay, and so then you had these sacred texts. Okay, the Imperial Chapel stands as a theological bridge, a testimony that spiritual legitimacy, not mere, it wasn't just about conquest, it was defined as divine kingship. Now, later chapels, particularly those built under the Greco-Roman era, contained hymns blending Egyptian theology with Greco-Roman language. Okay, they had invocations to Amun as Zeus. Okay, and so they did those kind of things. So these texts maintained some kind of living priestly script even under foreign rule. Okay, and so, and then of course over time that we had the Coptic church. They would build churches in and around the Temple of Karnak, as well as when the Muslims came. When the Muslims came, they also built mosque or used some of these stones for their buildings. Okay, yeah, they did that. So the chapels of the other pharaohs in the Neteru, the network of divine presence. Scattered throughout Karnak's precincts or smaller sanctuaries, as we've seen, there's smaller little places, chapels of other pharaohs and Neteru, each dedicated to a particular god or ancestral ruler. Among them was the festival hall of Jehuti Mesu III, okay, also called the Ankh-Manu, okay, the Ankh-Manu. Shout out to brother Baba Aswar Kwesi. He does a lot of tours out there in Egypt, and he talks about this. Okay, it's a marvel of it's a place of spiritual geometry, a temple to the hidden one and to the divine ancestors, where the pharaoh communed with those who ruled before him. The Ankh-Manu's architecture is unique. Its columns are shaped like tent poles, invoking the military campaigns of Jehuti Mesu III, but also symbolizing the temporary nature of earthly power compared to the eternal nature of divine rule. Okay. Now, so nearby chapels, we have the nearby chapels to Kansu. We had Mut, Kansu, and Ptah and Sekhmet. Okay, they created a web of divine power. There was some kind of divine network that was happening. Each served as a station for the processional bark of Amun, a point where each Neteru's presence touched the earth. Like I said, it was a touchdown point, receiving offerings, oracles, and songs. Now, across the smaller chapels dedicated to Mut, Kansupata, and Sekhmet, the inscriptions preserve liturgical refrains and cosmic hymns and songs, right? So they had some of these hymns or some of these little songs. This is like the chapel in the chapel of Mut. It says they will sing a song like Mother of the Neteru, Eye of Ra, the great one of Isharu, who gives life to all that breathes. That is in the chapel of Mut. Then we have the chapel of Ptah. Even though this is in Waset, because Waset is Thebes, right? Get it. But the temple of Mennefer or Hetka Ptah, that's where Ptah is. But now we see that there's a chapel of Ptah where there's something to him. He who spoke and creation came to be, who formed the Netzeru through his heart and tongue. Mm-hmm. We may have to talk about Ptah a little bit more. We may have to talk about him. Now, Ptah represents the power of divine speech, the creative word. His presence and Karnak reminds us that language itself is a creative force that properly uttered words that can shape the reality, right? Then we have the chapel of Kansu. Okay, the chapel of Kansu, the mighty youth. They say the mighty youth, he who traverses the sky, the Lord of the Crescent, whose power renews the world each month, monthly cycles, monthly, the full moon and everything. Okay, matter of fact, correct me if I'm wrong. I think the full moon is coming up. Okay, each inscription was a vibration of divine energy, ensuring that continuous resonance between the temple, the people, and the cosmos. Okay, together these sanctuaries form a hidden grid of the temple. Okay, and an energetic network that mirrored the stars and balanced the cosmic order within the precinct. Now we have some hidden logic or Kemetic science. Yeah, we got that. We got that. Shout out to Brother Ferguson. We're going to do a little bit of Kemetic science. Now, the white chapel represents renewal, right? Resurrection of divine kingship. The red chapel symbolizes manifestation. The moment of divine energy becomes visible to the world. Okay, the Osirion Chapel embodies resurrection, transformation of death into life. The Imperial Chapel, symbolic of continuity, the unbroken lineage of sacred authority, and the chapels of the Neteru form the constellations of divinity in and around the chapel, as above, so below, ensuring that all forces, solar, lunar, stellar, and otherwise, remain in balance. Each chamber, okay, each carving, each offering table served as a interface between the mortal and the divine, where sound, scent, and symbols awakened the eternal presence of the hidden one, hidden yet everywhere. They felt everywhere. Here within the chapels of Karnak, the ancient architects inscribed a theology of light and shadow, the science of divine presence concealed in stone. Okay, they are not merely ruins. They were resonators, still humming with the frequency of creation, still whispering the hidden names of Amun. So now